Well, when the housing market was doing great, many politicians rushed to be the first in line to take credit. But many of the areas that benefited most from the boom have suffered the worst since the bubble burst. Well, will that come back to haunt lawmakers on Election Day? We're going to ask our guests. John Fund will join us in a second from the Wall Street Journal. But first, I want to go to Brad Friedman from bradblog.com. Brad, thank you so much for coming here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Brad, a lot of politicians took credit for the housing boom, especially in swing states. I remember Florida, Miami in particular, just about a year and a half ago, was probably one of the fastest developing cities in the country. There were scaffolding set up all over that city. But do you believe that they're now going to be taking the biggest hit on Election Day, those same people who took credit for the housing boom, not even 2 years ago?
Yeah, everyone took credit for the housing boom, frankly, and I don't think it's going to be a matter of, one party or another being able to capitalize on that point. I think the point here is, at this point, to paraphrase Bill Clinton, who I never voted for, it's the votes, stupid. And it's a matter of getting people to the polls, allowing them to vote, having their vote counted and counted accurately. That's going to be the biggest concern this year. I think it's almost too late on all of these smaller issues. Right now, it's about voting and the concerns of thousands of voters purged across the country in state after state. It's a very serious concern.
John, I want to ask John from the Wall Street Journal, John Fund, to chime in here. And do you think that the housing market is going to be a factor come Election Day?
Well, absolutely, but it will probably be dwarfed by the 401k notices that people got in their mailboxes last week, which probably showed a dramatic dip for many people. I think that the housing boom is certainly deflated, but not everyone sells their house every month. So I think the retirement savings are probably going to be more important. That's why the tax plans of the two candidates, Mr. Obama and Mr. McCain, are going to weigh very clearly here. Mr. Obama has a very good line. 95% of Americans will get a tax cut. On the other hand, almost 40% of Americans don't pay income tax, so I suspect that that will be a dramatic expansion of the earned income tax credit. And,
right.
Of course, Mr. McCain wants to preserve the Bush tax cuts, which are very large, and which on the other hand expire in 2010. That will be the big debate regardless of which candidate wins.
Brad, many of the aspects of the economic crisis all began with the mortgage fallout, and I guess lately McCain's been on the campaign trail trying to capitalize on that claim that Obama wants to spread your money around, redistribute your wealth, as he calls it. Whether that's true or not, with tight pocketbooks these days, that fear may resonate more than ever before. So my question to you is, if McCain, first of all, can capitalize on this fear, is it going to be enough to turn the election around?
Well, the key word there is fear, and where Republicans have been able to make gains over the last couple of years, it is by scaring people. And we're seeing tactics now where, they're using these code words, socialist, that Obama's a socialist, which is a code word for communist. We're seeing that he's a terrorist, all sorts of scare effects that won't work this year as long as the voters are able to vote. And by the way, I have a bit of a Fox News alert for you on that topic on the way over here. The head of the California GOP Voter Registration outfit has been arrested for voter registration fraud himself. This is the group that has been alleged to have changed up to 75,000 voter registrations from Democratic to Republican, and he has been arrested today. I hope you guys will carry that as much as y'all are carrying this phony Acorn voter fraud hoax that's going on.
All right, well, we will look into that, and our assignment desk is looking into it as we speak, and of course, if it is a fact, then we will report it. John, at this point, I guess, a lot of people want to link John McCain somehow to President Bush for the housing crisis, considering he has been in office for the last 8 years. But I also want to quote Henry Cisneros, who happens to be the former housing secretary in the Clinton administration, and he tells the New York Times, and I'm quoting, "People came to home ownership who should not have been homeowners. They were lured by unscrupulous participants, bankers, brokers, secondary market people. The country is paying for that, and families are hurt because we as a society did not draw a line." John, you say not everyone remembers Congress Democratic majority for the past couple years. Do you think that we've got fuzzy memories?
Yes. By the way, first of all, I'm very glad that prosecutors are pursuing voter fraud regardless of where it happens. No party has a monopoly on virtue.
This was voter registration fraud.
Excuse me. I'd like to finish.
That was voter registration fraud, not voter fraud, sir.
Okay, voter registration fraud, which is what we've been calling voter fraud when it comes to Acorn, and now we're looking into it as happening
well,
in the Republican
there's a big
Party.
difference there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big difference there. So.
All right, voter registration fraud, which has been occurring all over the country, on now both sides, according to you, and we're going to look into that. But I wanted you to finish your thought, John.
Well, several prosecutors refer to voter fraud consistently, regardless of whether it's in the registration process or whether it's in the actual counting of votes. I would simply say, regarding the housing issue, I think that Mr. Cisneros is onto something here, because he was the housing secretary under President Clinton, and he, along with the Bush administration, has to bear a lot of responsibility for turning over almost the entire credit market to this drive for everybody to have home ownership. I'm in favor of home ownership. I'm very glad that people of modest means could try to own a home. But at some point, too much of anything can be a bad thing. And when it led to a tremendous expansion of credit, and then it led to Wall Street creating all kinds of bizarre derivatives and investment instruments that no one quite understood, we spiraled out of control. A classic housing bubble, which we're going to be paying the cost for the next 2 or 3 years. Once again, even though something is a positive social good, going too far can hurt all of us.
All right, Brad, did you feel like you had a fair shot here? I don't want you to walk away thinking that this wasn't fair and balanced.
No, I do appreciate that. Of course, nobody was, forced to give bad loans to people. They shouldn't have done it. There needs
Actually,
to be more
the Community
regulation.
Reinvestment Act did force people to lower their loan standards, which they otherwise wouldn't have done. I've talked to several bankers who basically said, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac basically told them, we're not going to take your business unless you relax your loan standards and put out more loans.
All right, we got to go, guys.
Well, I think we need more regulations all around to take the bad guys down, whoever they may be, John.
You're right. We definitely do. We don't want that going on in this country, and I don't care who's doing it. Brad Friedman, thank you so much, and John Fund. Great to have you both on together today. Thank you. Greg.
Well, Election Day right around the corner.